Welcome to our Atlanta race review. It was basically Logano, Penske, and Ford dominating. Mainly Penske with Logano taking both stages plus the race win. And he's right now the points leader with 177 points. Alex Bowman got upset with Chastain for not helping him shuffle Hendrick out to dry.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, if you're fighting for a top 10 spot, you would think, oh, let's help this guy so he could also get a top 10 and we still can get better positions. No, he just says, no, screw you, I'm going to try to pass you my own way, and yet you still didn't get a top 10.
And Kevin Harvick definitely had to be mad at Chastain as well. We were just watching the NASCAR Radioactive from this week, and he was pretty pissed at Chastain for getting into Harvick and causing one of the big wrecks from this past week.
That was not the initial cause of the wreck. It was the air that disturbed the back of Harvick's car that sent Harvick sideways, and Chastain lightly tapped him, and it finished Harvick off and caused the big one.
Maybe a little talk about it. I think, in my opinion, I don't think there's any talking to Chastain at all. I mean, he's ran into many drivers. He's made many drivers upset over the course of the last year or so. So I don't think talking to him is going to make it any better, in my opinion, if I was a driver in the Cup Series garage. And I think it just let it kind of dictate itself, race how you get raced. And
plus, the big thing with super speedways, manufacturers will meet with each of their teams, like, okay, super speedway racing, work with each other. Last lap, you can say, okay, we could break off our alliance. But if it's a shuffle out of Ford, just work with your fellow manufacturer driver. At least give both of yourselves a decent finishing spot and points, and not screw both of you over. That's what I think should happen. I'm putting the Atlanta race at 5, because the spring race from last year was so much better than this one. It basically, everyone's like, oh, let's just run the high line and just wait to make hard racing chaos for stage points. Like, no, that's, the Cup Series didn't even sell out the entire grandstands. Trucks and Xfinity, they had a better race than the Cup guys.
I'm thinking I'm gonna go a little bit of a different direction than that. I will agree. I think the quality of the racing was a little down compared to last year's Atlanta races, but I will say I might give it a slightly bit of a higher rating, just because I did like the fact everyone was trying to keep their cars clean for pretty much a vast majority of the race. So I'm going to give it between a 6.5 and a 7 out of 10. I did see some impressive moves. The one that kind of stuck out to me was Austin Cindric getting that last lap pass to win stage 2, and what Joe Logano did on that last lap passing Brad Keselowski for the race win, I thought was pretty impressive. And I thought I saw quite a bit of textbook passing. So I think that definitely gives it a little bit of a higher rating for me personally.
Yeah, I just put at 5 because I just didn't like the quality of racing, but I just don't like waiting for all the action to happen at the end of a stage. Plus, I was okay with the 2 decent big ones. The second one, Bowman kind of squeezed through there. And Hendrick just had a bad day, period. They only had one driver that stayed intact, while all the other 3 suffered from damage.
Being Josh Berry, Kyle Larson, and William Byron, who had his hot streak unfortunately ended. I know he was one of my picks for Atlanta. And yeah. So, I mean, it was a pretty sour day for Hendrick Motorsports at Atlanta.
Yeah. In the last episode, we did forget to mention, because at the point of that there was no penalties being released at that time. Hendrick and Kauling both got the same penalty on the modifying a single source part, which was the louvers. Hendrick Motorsports and Kauling are both appealing that same penalty, but Hendrick has more of a solid stand to win this, because they are basically blaming the single source supplier for not meeting what Chevy and NASCAR approved the design to be. So I see Hendrick winning. Kauling, they're most likely gonna lose, because only one of their louvers were somewhat modified and was confiscated after qualifying. So, and Denny Hamlin is also appealing his for intentionally wrecking Ross team. And yes, he did mean to do it, but he is saying that is not what he said on his podcast on what NASCAR simply placed down.
Right.
So Hendrick has a good shot at winning the appeal. All 4 drivers getting 100 points back. If that does happen, Joey Logano is only going to have the points lead for a slight period of time, as Bowman would jump to 185 once he gets 100 points back added on to his points from Atlanta. That is if Hendrick ends up winning
their appeal.
So I think NASCAR needs to be more specific on modifying single source parts. It's like they need to say if it is after practice, because practice, that really isn't competition thing. It's just to see where the car is at setup wise. So I think that's where Hendrick is gonna have the advantage with that, and that they weren't used in qualifying or the race because they had different louvers.
I guess I'll lead this off into COTA. Looking at COTA, this coming up this week. I think COTA is going to be a very interesting race. Honestly, it's hard to make picks for COTA for me personally, just because we don't know what's going to happen without stage breaks on road courses, and COTA should be very interesting. I did happen to see an update from NASCAR saying that they were going back to the 2022 restart zone specs for COTA.
There's another big thing. Choose rules in effect.
Choose rules also in effect.
At all tracks.
At all tracks now. So that kind of throws in more elements and more strategy and more unpredictability for this coming race in COTA.
I think Bristol dirt will not have the choose rule because how the heck?
It's a dirt track, and they're not gonna be able to see a choose cone.
That, or they're not gonna see an orange semi-triangle with a box in the middle for choosing lanes.
With it being a dirt track and having a bunch of dust flying and everything.
Yes, and it's just gonna get messed up anyway.
Yeah. So, I think I mean, I could sit here and try and make picks for COTA. The truth is, I really don't have any picks for COTA, but I think the drivers I'm looking at for COTA, I'm going to say AJ Allmendinger because he's dominated the road courses. In the Xfinity Series, he's won at a lot of the road courses, had a good shot at winning it at the end last year, as well as Alex Bowman and Ross Chastain as well. He won that race last year, and then Alex Bowman had a really good shot too. Really, those three guys are the ones I'm gonna be keeping my eyes on at COTA next week. And yeah,
I'm gonna focus on AJ Allmendinger and Alex Bowman. Because I do see potential payback from Allmendinger on Ross from last year in turn 19 on just run into Allmendinger, put him in a Bowman, because Bowman had the lead at the point, and Bowman was turning to make that corner, and Ross decides, like, screw you, Allmendinger, you go on to Bowman and I'll just take the win. So I'm focusing on those two drivers mainly, and plus I think Bowman does have a better advantage because he does have Greg Ives on the box for 3 more races. But if I have to potentially go for an honorary, maybe I'm between Jordan Taylor from IMSA, as he's filling in for Chase in the Napa 9, and Jimmy Johnson, since he kind of got more experience with on-road courses and street courses with IndyCar. So those are mainly my picks, but I would have had Ross in there. But I'm just like more focused on what's gonna happen if once Bowman and Allmendinger's around Ross towards the end, because I do see potential payback happening.
Yeah.
So.
Those have been our race review from Atlanta and our race picks for COTA. And till next week. Get your shingles vaccination and shut your mouth.
And we might do a brief cover on if Hendrick is gonna points back or if they have lost their appeal. Yeah, so, this is it for this episode, and if you are not, the U.S. and Japan is playing for the World Baseball Classic title, as Japan is just opened up the lead by 2 now, so, hope you guys watch. Go Team USA.